Welcome back to the GTN Show. It's Kona time.
Oh, yes, it is. We've got many of the athletes actually already on their way out, if not already in Hawaii, ahead of the Women's Ironman World Championships. And Heather is off today too.
Oh, yeah. Feeling very excited about that. Well, obviously, we're going to be talking about Kona, but also we need to chat about the Adidas carbon shoe that's been getting a bit of heat recently.
Yeah, and not in a good way, unfortunately. We also have 2 world records that have sadly not become world records due to a course not being measured properly and being 25 metres short.
Plus, we've got some action from the Super League over in Malibu, including, sadly, a bike crash for Summer Rappaport. Right, let's kick things off by taking a look at stuff we have spotted online before we get to the build-up of Kona. There was obviously the Super League over in Malibu last weekend, and it wasn't, well, the weekend just gone, it wasn't a great day out for Summer Rappaport, sadly. There's this rather nasty video going around of her having a crash, and it turns out that it was all even worse than the crash. Things weren't going great beforehand, and she was having the whole debate of whether she should be racing or not, and made it through to the 3rd round of the Eliminator to then end up coming off a bike with a broken jaw. So I think that has now kind of clarified the fact she's going to have a break, but not in the way that she wanted.
Yeah, it sounded like she was really debated. She has had SI joint issues, and that's happened since Paris. She managed to make it back for Pontevedra, then it seized up again. And yeah, I think she probably wishes she never lined up.
Hindsight, hey.
For her. No, I thought this was awesome. This is actually on our own social media accounts. We popped up this reel of Heather and I doing the Sea to Summit in Nice from Bay and Nice up to Mount Capulet Superior.
Yes.
Very cool. And anyway, Daniel Reef has got involved very excitedly. He said, yes! I said, well, why would you fancy doing this sort of event? And she has actually said, well, I would swim at Valency, I think that's how we pronounce it, ride to St. Moritz and have some of the best wine in the Malans on the way. Then run from St. Moritz up to Corvus or Pisner. I'm absolutely butchering these names, I'm sure. And she says, I will be waiting in Malans to hand out the wine. I think we should make this happen. And actually, Daniela, if you're up for it, join us for this triathlon.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to do it soon before the snow arrives in St. Moritz. Maybe post Kona, quick
That'd be
pop
awesome,
over.
eh?
Yeah, very cool. This next one caught my eye. It was Jason West, who has obviously been excelling at the PTO Opens and with some incredibly fast running, has just announced that he is going to take on short course with the potential of having his eyes set on Paris 24. Now, bear in mind, that is less than a year away, so he's got quite a lot of work to qualify, but it's not just a bit of rumour, he's saying the races that he's planning on doing. He's got some various targets, but says, I'm really excited to announce racing the World Cups this fall, starting with Rome, with a sprint in Rome and an Olympic distance in Brasilia. Fires me up to challenge myself, moving down in distance at a race that the fast ITU guys is something I think will help me continue to grow as an athlete. Got my sights set on a sub 14:30 for 5K and a sub 29:30 for 10K.
Yeah, pretty exciting. I mean, he hasn't actually said about Paris 2024, but I mean, reading between the lines, it feels like...
I just read between the lines there
Well,
myself.
yeah, but I mean, I think that's why everyone is. He hasn't actually stated it and written it down there, but let's be honest, that's probably what he's aiming for.
Is there a gap in that team?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, if any, with his running performances, I mean, he definitely has got what it takes, I'm sure. Now moving on to the Kona spam.
Oh, let it begin.
I'm sure much more will be coming out in the next couple of days. We're filming this on Monday, but we have spotted Lisa Norden already out on the Queen K.
Yeah, it looks a nice open Queen K. That's obviously before the rest of us lot arrive and make the island rather busy. Kat Matthews has landed. She did some prep out in Lanzarote and is relieved that her bike has arrived because there has been a few issues this year with athletes travelling with bikes. So that's a bit of a relief for Kat to see her out there.
Yeah, and she seems to be hanging out a little bit with Indy Lee, Ruth Hassel, who have already been, they were there a couple of days or so prior to that. And they've also brought Jack Schofield out, who has been, well, he's doing a bit of photography for them. And check these photos out with the dolphins.
I mean, I saw those posts a few days ago and absolutely stunning. I am still yet to ever see the dolphins in Hawaii, so I'm really hoping that they're going to hang around for a few more days. Fingers crossed.
Well, now for the Tri News, and we've got a few new events for you guys to get excited about. So first off, a couple of new events from Challenge. One is them taking over the already existing Israman in Eilat, Israel, and that will be taking place on January the 26th, 2024. So that's pretty cool. Also, they've unveiled their long-awaited return to North America with a race in Quebec. So they now have the Sail Challenge Cap Quebec, which will be taking place on July 19th.
Yeah, and then there's also a new race by Ironman if you're looking for a spring event in Europe, and this could tick the box, the 70.3 Valencia, which is going to be held on the 21st of April next year. So it is a brand new event. I think entries actually open as soon as 5th of October, so in a couple of days' time. Quite an early one, so if you are looking for that race, it might be a bit chilly. It's got a sea swim, heads up into the mountains, sounds really pretty, but yeah, a good one to maybe get you going to start the year off.
Yeah, now we did have a couple of very exciting world records a few weeks back. Kenya's Agnes Negatic, she shocked the world by setting these two world records within the Transylvania 10K in Romania for the 5K and the 10K. Now these were the women's only world records, meaning that there were only women within the race rather than it being besides men in the same race. So she set a time of 29:24 for the 10K and 14:25 for the 5K. However, as we all know, that World Athletics have to ratify a course if they are to set a new world record, and therefore they have to measure it accurately. They found out the course was in fact 25 metres short, therefore neither of her records can stand. And what's really, really sad is that 25 metres really isn't much, and she was a whole 36 seconds under that 10K world record. I mean, she could have walked that extra 25 metres if she wanted and still got the world record. So yeah, it's just...
I mean, yeah, I cannot imagine her frustration at that, of like not only the achievement, the elation, but also the prize money, the sponsors' money that she'll have got from that, and just that recognition. And like you say, to have still, in theory, most probably been under it. Yeah, I think some race organisers have got some answering to do for that one. Moving on to some less positive news that's just been coming out from Ironman 70.3 Barcelona, where sadly on the bike leg there was a collision and one athlete has actually ended up losing their life as a result of that. We still don't know all of the exact details because it is coming out at the moment, and obviously our deepest condolences to that athlete's family. But yeah, apparently from what we've heard and from colleagues, that it was an out and back course that had quite tight sections in parts.
Yeah, so we understand that there was a collision between two athletes from opposite directions, as far as we understand at the moment, and both athletes were dealt with on the scene, and there was a medical condition that was dealt with there and then, but sadly one of the athletes that was taken away unfortunately didn't survive. So our condolences, of course, go out to the families and those involved in that. But it does sadly bring us back to this whole topic about the safety of courses, and as we are sort of hearing, and of course we are yet to kind of verify all this information, this out and back course was a little bit dicey at times. From various counts from people, they're saying that it was quite a close course. You got 3,500 athletes doing this out and back course, and at points apparently it went to a single lane for only about 100 metres, but you had athletes in both directions, mixed abilities, people trying to overtake, various things. And it's just, I don't know, why are we still doing this? And I also have heard that it wasn't a fully closed course as well. I mean, you're paying a lot of money to go and do these events, and you expect it to be safe and to not be dealing with things like this. So, as I say, we're very early days in all of this. So it literally has just landed with us before coming in to film this. So, yeah, we'll hopefully follow up. Again, condolences to those families and those involved.
On to tech news now, and the battle of the carbon shoes continues. Now, last week we covered the impressive performances from the Berlin Marathon, including a 5th overall victory for Eliud Kipchoge, and spotted the shoes he was wearing, the Nike Alphafly 3 prototypes. But even he was outshone by to get a Safa's world record with an impressive time, taking over 2 minutes off the women's world record. And interestingly, she was wearing the Adidas Adizero Pro Evo 1. Now, those shoes have got everybody talking, and not necessarily in a good way or for a good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. But firstly, let's talk through kind of what's different and special about these shoes. So these shoes have got this newly developed Light Strike Pro foam in the midsole, which is meant to give you an enhanced, increased energy return. It's got a stack height of 39 mil, so just sneaking under that legal limit in the heel, and then 33 mil in the forefoot. So you've got a 6 mil heel to forefoot drop. There's also a new forefoot rocker, so it really sort of triggers you apparently onto the forefoot for that spring off and energy return. They've also re-engineered the upper, so it's super light, saving a bit of weight there. And also, actually, on the grip on the sole is very different too. It's basically flat. It's got no grooves in, but apparently still has got plenty of grip. But very interesting. I haven't really seen that before. But that's not what has caught the attention of everyone. So firstly, they're only releasing 521 pairs. They will cost €500 or £400. Yeah, we had to take a double check on that one. And each pair comes with a card stating that the shoes are only for one race, along with a little bit of familiarisation in the shoes.
Yeah, so that is the aspect. I mean, obviously the fact there's not very many and the cost is one thing, but the area that they're getting most criticism is on the one-use aspect. And in particular, there's been a letter written by Damien Hall, who sort of heads up the Green Runners, and they're very much against single-use plastic and trying to do as much as they can to help the environment, but also help people carry on running and competing. So they have written to the Chief Executive Officer at Adidas. Well, the main points being the average pair of running shoes generates 14 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions during its life cycle, irrelevant of what shoe, with manufacturing the largest emitter in that process. Globally, 90% of shoes and more than 85% of trainers end up incinerated or in landfill, and 300 million pairs of trainers are thrown into landfill every year in the UK alone. Can't really get your head around those numbers, but it said depending on the nature of the materials, trainers may persist in the environment for up to 1,000 years. And now, obviously, these shoes are going to be accelerating those numbers in theory by the fact of the lack of wear that you get out of them. And it's going to be interesting to see what general punters, because people are going to see that time that she's just run and go, wow, if I can take 2 minutes off, or even more if you're running slower, off your PB, where's the line? It's
a really interesting topic, isn't it? Because I am all for developing and improving technology and seeing how far we can take things. But how far do we go with this? And as his photo here says, we are anti-Evo. Single-use shoes have no place in our sport. Yeah, how do you feel about this? Be interested. Let us know in the comments section down below. I mean, obviously we've seen an incredible performance in these shoes, but should these shoes be available to everyone? But equally, she wouldn't be able to have raced in those shoes if they weren't available for everyone. So it's a really... But it's also an interesting balance, because if they're only releasing that many, because I don't know if that means they're allowed at the Olympics because they don't have to be available for anyone. Well, I don't know why that rule is. Also, I don't know if it's just an initial release of them. So, we'll many unanswered questions. But let us know in the comments section down below. I also thought this was quite interesting. So Ultra, who are, many of you maybe have run in their shoes, they have famously made zero-drop shoes, and they're very popular in the trail running market. They have apparently stepped away from zero-drop shoes, which is quite big, because that was literally their USP, that they are simply zero-drop shoes, and they have just brought in their Ultra Forward, or FWD, experience, which is a neutral-orientated everyday trainer with a 4mm heel-to-toe offset. And they say that they wanted to deliver not only for people that are maybe interested in using Ultra shoes but don't want to use zero-drop shoes, or also for those that maybe wants to mix it up in their stash of shoes and just being able to mix and change. Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll be getting more people coming into their brand who wouldn't otherwise, and maybe converting them, if that's their aim, I don't know. Yeah. And finally, we have some new tech from our goggle partners, the Magic 5. These are a little bit different to add to their collection. We have an accessories bundle from them. So we have, in this particular mesh bag, we've got a kickboard, which is quite cool. We've got a pool buoy. We've got a swim cap. This one's in pink, but apparently you would get in navy, along with anti-fog. I think that's it. That's what they call the essential bundle. Yeah, there's also the Discovery bundle, which is a slightly higher price, but you get, as well as that, a snorkel, which we do actually have. And one of the things that I probably should use, but hey, the finger paddles, which is normally a sign that you need to work on your technique, plus the Magic 5 card game, which some of you guys might have seen already. Yeah, actually, we're going to be featuring these a little bit more in some more detail in a future video, but yeah, pretty cool to see. Check it out.
It's time for race news now. We already touched on earlier that it was the Super League Championship Series over in Malibu, the third of the 4 series. And there's some dramatic racing. It was the eliminator format, so 300-metre swim, 3.6k bike, 1.6k run. 3 stages, and after each stage, the bottom 3 athletes get knocked out. So it comes through to the third and final stage, and then it is obviously a race to the finish line. So quite an exciting format when you're sort of looking over your shoulder. It was actually quite chilly for Malibu. The water was 17 degrees, but I guess only a 300-metre swim, so it would have been an incentive to
Not
swim.
a wetsuit though, but
swim,
yeah.
to swim fast. I mean, I'm still definitely swimming in a wetsuit finding it cold at that temperature. But anyway, Hayden Wilde was back on top. So he won the race 3 seconds ahead of Leo Berger, and it was Matt Hauser in third on the men's race.
Yeah, and on the women's race, it was Cassandra Beaugrand that took the win ahead of Emma Lombardi and Jeanne Leher in third. Interestingly, Beth Potter in fourth. I say that as if that's a surprise. I mean, she has had such an impressive season so far. I can't expect her to win every weekend, but interesting, the different distances and seeing how they perform. And then Katie Seferis in fifth.
Yeah, that's cool. And so the standings with 1 race to go, we've got Leo Berger on the top, Johnny Brownlee in second, and Hayden Wilde, interestingly, in third, and Alex E. fourth. So I feel like quite a lot could change on the men's side going into that final race.
And then on the women's side, it's Jeanne Leher still taking the lead there with 28 points, just 1 point ahead of Emma Lombardi. And then Kate Wall actually in third, ahead of Beth Potter in fourth, and Sophie Caldwell in fifth.
Yeah, I didn't actually mention, so in the men's, there's only 1 point between those top 4, like each point. So a lot could change in that last race, which we'll obviously be covering when we get to it. And we also had World Cup racing over in Tangier, Morocco, and there's very much an interest in this one because Vicky Holland was back racing. And I mean, I didn't know until she put up her post last week that she had an intention of being back racing. And it wasn't like, I'm starting to train to get fit. She's gone under the radar and just said, right. And she had a pretty successful race. Well, the race was won by Lisa Tersch of Germany, who is on fine form and has qualified her slot. We had Noelia Juan from Spain in second and Tilda Manson third. Also, Rachel Klammer was in that race in fifth, but Vicky Holland finishing seventh. So well inside the top 10 and not far off the top spots in the times either. Yeah,
well, on the men's side, another impressive performance from Pierre Lecour. France really do look like a full speed record for next year. So he took the win ahead of David Del Campo in second and Vettel Thorn in third.
Then we also had the New York City Triathlon, which sadly ended up being a duathlon. The swim was cancelled, so it became a run, bike, run. The women's race was won by Amy Zimmerman, and Matt Sharp won the men's race.
Okay, now moving on to take a look through some of the photos and videos that you guys have sent in to us. And this month, we are asking for your photos and videos of you taking on the weather in the elements. And we're not just talking about racing, we're talking about training, everything around the racing as well. But of course, if you are taking on the elements in your racing, send that in too. Which we have got this week from Marcus, who's in Falmouth. He says, as the summer draws to an end, I ended the Cornwall Triathlon series at the Falmouth Triathlon with wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour, met with quite the swell on the swim. And you can hear that in the video clip. And it does look like it's been pretty damp on the run section there too. But yeah, hopefully you rounded that series out well.
Yeah, I mean, if you do a triathlon in the UK, you have to expect all weather, don't you? But that's why we love talking about the weather. But this next one comes from Andy in Davos in Switzerland, which I have...
I mean, they have often experienced bad weather there.
We've talked about when they're in the pro race, they've had it shortened and all sorts, haven't they? But he says, just finished in the pouring rain, crazy bike route over a high mountain pass twice. He's smiling, which is good, but you can see by the officials in the background with umbrellas and hoods up that the weather must have been pretty miserable.
I do feel for those event organisers because that is clearly such an incredible race, and everyone I've heard that's been there said it's amazing, but they do seem to have to battle with the weather.
It's not one I'm going to enter, I'm afraid, even if the views are stunning, but if you can't see them in the rain.
Do keep your photos and videos coming into us using the photo uploader link that's on screen right now, or you can find it in the description down below. Say what?
Okay, this week we've got a couple of comments we spotted beneath Phil's 5k PB attempt. This first one from 79 Devo. My 100 kilo, 60-year-old body is satisfied at any 5k that begins with 29 minutes. If I hit someone, The momentum sends them flying. Note to others, clear the finishing line because, like Arnie, I absolutely will not stop. I mean,
Thanks for that.
Interesting.
But it's a good point. We do talk about Phil, obviously, was targeting quite an ambitious time. And it doesn't matter if you're after a 40-minute 5K. I mean, it's still really impressive.
Yeah.
So,
and the principles of what Phil was doing cross over as well, don't they?
Absolutely.
So hopefully you guys, wherever you're at, can learn from that. Even if you're faster than Phil, there's still quite a lot that you can take from his journey of that.
Yeah, which sort of leads us on to the next comment, and there were a few similar actually. It comes from Sinance Tinkaya, said 23:35k PB for beginners, question mark. I've been running 10 years and this is hard even for me. 30-minute 5k is more realistic target for a new runner. And again, absolutely agree. I think there's a little bit of confusion here because we did kind of briefly mention at the beginning of the video that you may recognise Phil as a beginner from some of the GCN videos, the cycling channel, Global Cycling Network, because he is new to cycling and triathlon. But he has done a bit of running before.
Yeah, I mean, hence I started him on 4 runs a week up to 5 runs a week, and would not do that with a beginner.
So we were not saying that he was a beginner runner by any means, but he definitely could improve his running training because it was all over the place.
Yeah, it was fun to coach him. If you haven't yet seen that video, I would suggest checking it out because Phil just brings good energy, even though he does apparently accuse me of being slightly scary in his coaching. I think that's all just for camera. Sure it was.
That said, we've got Kona coming up. Heather is heading out to Kona today, which is very exciting. And we've got a lot of content in the lead up to the Ironman World Championships, including this weekend with a prep video for the Ironman World Championships from Kat Matthews. So if you'd like a bit of a behind the scenes of how one of the best females in the world is prepping for that race, then do go and check that out now.
Yeah, it should be a pretty cool one to watch. If you are heading to Kona, or even if you're not and you want to get into the Kona mood, well, we are both wearing our Kona t-shirts and they are available on the shop right now, so click on that and get them because I think we've only got a limited supply, so check those out quickly. And if you want something to watch now, well, James is back and fully recovered from his trip to Uzbekistan and the video of his triathlon is out now.